This time I'd like to call back to order the Federal Way School District Board of Education meeting for February 11th, 2014. In attendance tonight is Director McAnalloy, Director Wilson, Director Gregory, and Director Peterson. This time I'd like to have us stand for the presentation of the colors.
Guards, right shoulder, arms, forward, arch. Color, hold, left, peace, reset, colors.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Carry, colors. Right, peace, forward, arch. Forward, colors.
You may be seated. Thank you. And again, tonight we are grateful for the Federal Way JROTC program and for their being here and presenting the colors to us tonight. This time, I would like to look for a motion to approve tonight's agenda.
I move that the Board of Education approve the meeting agenda on February 11th, 2014 as submitted.
It's been moved. Is there a second?
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any comments? Seeing no comments, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. Next, we have our consent agenda. We'll look for a motion to approve our consent agenda this evening.
President Peterson, I actually asked to remove item 4B, item number 1 under terminations for further review.
Can I have you move the consent agenda with that
Sure, I'm
adjustment?
sorry. Okay, sure. I move the Board of Education approve the consent agenda on February 11, 2014, with the exception of removing 4B, item 1 under terminations for further review by the board.
There's been a motion put on the floor. Is there a second? There's been a motion on the floor. Is there a second?
I second. I'm
It's been motioned and seconded. Thank you. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. Thank you for that motion and that second and the passing, so we can move on with our agenda. Tonight we have a full agenda of things. Right now we have student recognitions. So I'm going to invite Deputy Superintendent Mark Davidson to the podium for his presentation tonight.
Thank you, President Peterson, members of the board. It gives me great pleasure at this time to introduce the principal of Illahee Middle School, Mr. Jerry Warren. Thank you.
Jerry.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Director Peterson and the other directors of our board. Tonight it's my pleasure to introduce to you one of our finest and most promising young people in our, not only our Federal Way School District, but also in our state. This is Ms. Cashmere Hutchins. Would you come forward and stand here next to me? Cashmere is an 8th grader at Illahee Middle School, and she has been the face of anti-bullying at our school and also the voice of social justice. She didn't want to do a lot of bragging about herself, so I asked her if I could say a few things about her and some of the things that she has done, some of her accomplishments. If you hold on for a moment, you're going to, I think, be impressed with the things that she's done. In November, the Washington State Board of Education was presented with an anti-bullying resolution supporting the inclusion of students in anti-bullying policy development, and it was unanimously adopted by the board, and a lot of that work had to do with Cashmere. Cashmere has been the featured speaker in 2 anti-bullying assemblies. The first was at Illahee Middle School, and as a result of that, we started an anti-bullying club, which was, she spearheaded that. Cashmere started the Power Cave, which is a social justice website for students to go on to. It's a place where they can find their voice, and it's about social justice. She's a member of the Seattle Young People's Project, which is a youth-led adult-sponsored social justice organization that empowers youth to express themselves and to take action on the issues that affect their lives. I'm still going, Cashmere. Hang on here. In January, she attended the Legislative Youth Action Day and hosted a workshop on violence and bullying in schools. And later that day, she talked to legislators about those very same issues. And I know most of you have heard about TED Talk, okay? So on March 1st, Cashmere has been invited to speak TED Talk Teens in New York City. And so one more time, she's going to be representing Federal Way in a most amazing way. So I present to you Ms. Cashmere.
Thank you, Mr. Warren. Thank you all for inviting me here this evening. Last summer, my mom told me this was going to be my year, and it has started on this. I have started on this amazing journey, and it has been crazy, exciting, and it is giving me something new to look forward to every single day. Writing the anti-bullying resolution was just a stab in the dark. I didn't know if anyone would read it or take me seriously. So the response from Illahee administration and from my peers was 1,000,000 times more than what I expected. Working with these great people has boosted my self-confidence and has added to my motivation to continue forward. Issues like bullying and youth homelessness are important to me, and giving young people a platform to speak is necessary for growth. The work I have done and continue to do is helping kids at my school feel empowered and safer. I hope that my work with the anti-bullying, social injustice, and teaching by example is continued to inspire those around me. I also challenge each of you as district representatives, teachers, educators, volunteers, and parents to do your part and find outlets for youth voice in our community. Allowing schools to truly become student-centered will help young people, both natural leaders and underdeveloped, grow into academically and emotionally well-rounded adults. This is how we change the world. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh. Thanks, Ryan. Get this out of there. Cool. Before I trip.
Congratulations, give her a hand.
Yeah.
I cannot top Cashmere's speech or her accomplishments, so we are done. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, I remember seeing her face in that newsletter and just that infectious smile. And we appreciate you coming here tonight, Cashmere, all that you're doing for our schools. Thank you.
We'll be looking for you on TED Talk.
It'll be on TV.
It sure will be, so let us know.
Thank you so much.
Next up tonight, we're going to look at early learning, and I'd like to invite Marie Verhar, Assistant Superintendent of Teaching for Learning.
Good evening, Board. Nice to be here again this evening. Tonight I have the pleasure of introducing to you our Director of Early Learning, who's going to share with you some of the work in this exciting venture of early learning that's new to our department. So with that, present to you Luisa Sanchez-Nielsen.
Thank you. Thank you so much for the honor to present to you this evening. But before I begin, I would love to introduce my team, because without my team, this work truly couldn't be possible. So I have Holly Jersey, Dawn McCaffrey, and Helica Alvarez from PSESD, and this is a new partnership through the P3B Investment Fund. And I have Cindy Drackelby as my principal, and then of course my early learning directors and TFL department play such a critical role in our work. So I'm going to try and figure out how this works. So before I begin my presentation, I would just really like for us to envision the possibility of addressing early learning through a comprehensive lens. And when we think of comprehensive, that we truly embrace the community, the parents, the pediatricians, the early child care providers, and every person that touches the life of early learning students pre-K through third grade. In Federal Way, we've also had the discussion of expanding that from birth to age 8. What is going on with me today? Okay. At a glance, in pre-kindergarten through third grade, we currently have over 1,800 kids enrolled in all-day kindergarten, and in each grade level, over 1,600 kids. When we do a snapshot view of the 6 schools that we will target this year under the Race to the Top 3B grant, you will notice that 80% of our students are free and reduced. In addition, over 80% of our students are of color. When we took the snapshot at the beginning of the year, we recognized that only 50% or 50% of the students are not meeting benchmark for reading or for math. Knowing that the root causes are of multiple reasons, we chose to address Lake Grove, Mark Twain, Mirror Lake, Olympic View, Sunnycrest, and Wildwood. Why P3 grade through third grade? Because the first 2,000 days matter. For every dollar spent at the beginning of the year, it's a return investment of $8 to $9. So we'll also see that as we address this through comprehensive approaches that can lead to preventing and closing achievement gaps and have higher graduation rates. In addition, children who are not proficient by the end of third grade are 4 times more likely not to graduate on time. As we look at this through a national lens, this is true when we look at proficiency in reading in the U.S., and it continues to be unacceptably low for low-income students and students of color. When we look at our early learning department per se, it's based on the work of the early learning plan that was built in collaboration through a joint resolution partnership with Thrive by 5, OSPI, the Washington Department of Early Learning, and now Federal Way Public Schools. What this early learning plan does is it provides a solid foundation for all children's success in school and life, and that it coordinates the multiple systems that impact children in their earliest years, and that will use multiple measures to look at children's results over time and to ensure that for families that what we do and who we invest in will work. So in addition to the component of our early learning department, we have added our ECE providers, which means Head Start, ECAP, preschool, and then integrated services, which means we provide special services or special ed in the integrated preschool. When we look at the vision of the Washington State Plan, it is really to work together so that all children start life with a solid foundation for success based on strong families and a world-class early learning system for all children prenatal through third grade. In addition, it's asking us to be accessible, accountable, and developmentally and culturally appropriate so that our system partners with families will ensure that every child is healthy, capable, and confident in school and in life. In addition, as we think of our work in the Federal Way Public Schools, it's in order to keep pace with the new Common Core state standards that when we think about the needs, we must think of building coherence, a comprehensive system pre-K through third grade, as we attend to effective instruction and meaningful learning opportunities that are central to the whole child. What does that mean in our district? Who are we? Well, it's our students pre-K through third grade or birth through age 8, our students, we, us, and you. What does that mean for our work? Our goal is to build continuity and alignment among the classrooms and ease the transition for children building bridges. So as we work with the external and internal early child care providers, that they are prepared for school readiness in kindergarten, that it is a smooth transition. How? We will do and embed on access all our coaches. We'll support for curriculum needs, targeted staff development, job-embedded staff development opportunities, and of course, to change student outcomes or test results. And why? The more we do up front, the less need for intervention, and we move towards a prevention model so that more kids are at benchmark level at the end of K-3. To do this work, we have really joined partners with roadmap region school districts. For example, we're going to work with Kent and Renton with the pre through 5 early learning mathematics leadership grant in collaboration with UW, Puget Sound ESD, and then any other national folks that can come together to help support this work. This grant is currently being proposed on Thursday as we look at really building capacity for all 23 elementary schools versus the 6 that were targeted for the Race to the Top grant. So what does this look like structurally in our district? Well, we have an early learning team, which is internal, and if you look at the circles, and you've been provided this graphic within your folder, we are responsible for a pre-K through 3rd grade framework, the pre-K through 5th grade math grant, language acquisition, ELL, coaching, building bridges, and reaching out to those external and internal ECE providers. In addition, really building capacity of the family liaisons and family engagement. We have an early learning advisory team that we filter all our work through before we move to the schools. We have an EC collaborative team that's bringing the community-based organizations together to talk about what the continuum of services and resources are as we look at them at birth, so that when they're moving into our feeder schools, they are ready for preschool, and then moving from preschool into kindergarten. Our early learning partners are Pre through 3rd grade coalition, which is sponsored by Gates, Thrive by 5, OSPI, our CBOs, which include a new group called Reach Out and Read, and we're going to build capacity around that, and then also our regional districts. A lot of the work around curriculum really happens in the heart in teaching for learning, and we could not do this without our content teams. In addition, when we look at family engagement, it is a critical piece to our success. This particular graph is provided to our ECE providers, Head Start and ECAP, but I had the opportunity to meet with Dr. Weiss, and she is excited at the possibility of expanding this work of what Therese Moore is doing down to the early learning grade bands. In addition, she's provided an infant toddler framework, and with all of this information, we have built several early learning plans. We had to submit a district action plan for the Race to the Top grant before we could even apply. We also had to submit a work plan, and in your folder we have provided a specific detailed work plan that is inclusive of all the buckets of the work that we have to do this year. It's aligned, balanced, integrated, so we have a vertical integration so that we're moving from early learning to K-12 system, hopefully for career and college ready. In addition, everything we do, well, we hope is relevant, right? And that it's developmentally appropriate. And then, of course, ramping up the rigor as we think of the whole child. Attending to the social emotional, currently we have 28 schools that are being trained in PBIS. We also moved this to our preschools, ECAP and Head Start, and they've all been trained as of last Friday. and we'll continue to build those partnerships as they continue to help fund these projects. Within each plan, we base it on research out of UW, which is Christy Cower's work, and it has all of these major buckets. I have provided this framework also within your packet for later reading. So my hope to support our district and community efforts is that we could have a work study as a board so that we could really delve in deeper what this means. I've covered a lot of information in a really brief time, but I think it's really important as we really think about what early learning means for Federal Way Public Schools. So as I mentioned, we have multiple plans. We have designed PD that is targeted around math, P through 5th grade, targeted around language acquisition, targeted around each grade band, kindergarten. Next year will be 1st grade, the year after that, 2nd, 3rd, and then hopefully we can scaffold simultaneously with preschool. We are restructuring the way we look at professional development and doing it through a job-embedded approach, so we're not taking the teachers out of the classroom, but really providing that assistance within the classroom so that we could provide that coaching on the spot that's not punitive, but really helps attend to the students' learning and teacher development. We are coordinating our efforts across the district. No longer are we working in silos, but we're working as a team. In addition, we are setting up developing data feedback loops. We just had a data day, and we're also doing this for preschool. So it's really powerful to look at the WA Kids data because it resembles the data that we're seeing as kindergartners enter the first part of the year. And then create a communication hub of what that will look like as we develop this work. How will we share our success and continue to create access for the community and the parents to know what's going on around early learning. Because of the major shifts, we've had to really attend to the Common Core and really think about intentional oral language development because research has moved us in that direction. The collaborations, once again, I cannot say how important they are because they bring funding sources and they really help the three of us build capacity and sustainability across the district. We also have to target learning trajectories. This is really important as we think of the rigor of the Common Core because if our teachers don't know what the sub-skills or the post-skills are, there is not the option to really meet the Common Core state standard. So our major buckets this year is really building relationships, building those bridges, finding out who our early learning community is, inviting them in, building capacity within all 23 elementary schools, looking at our ECAP, our Head Start, take an environmental scan, and really looking at the whole. So with that quick environmental scan, so we have visited every single elementary, every single ECAP, and every single Head Start this year. We noticed the need for a kindergarten framework. Today we had a very successful day. We brought together a representation from each school to provide a collaborative approach to designing a framework, not from the top down, but from the bottom up. We're also doing this in collaboration with Highline and Seattle, and we'll continue to work with our roadmap region districts. And then hopefully, not hopefully, but we will take this to implementation in school year 2014. So, do you have any questions?
Board members, any questions?
I'm sorry. It is.
That's great.
Okay.
I just want to say, great. This is my world, you know, with my 2.5-year-old and my 5-year-old. So this, obviously, this is the shift that we see in education. We're so grateful to have someone of your caliber here at our district, and you know, grabbing, you know, these young minds, you know, here and investing early and often, and we appreciate the work and what's going to be coming because of what your team's been doing. So thank you for presenting tonight.
Thank you. I just wanted to briefly share the work that we built on from last year and then a full early learning plan.
Fantastic.
And I also think it would be great to figure out a time when we can do a little bit more diving into the whole idea of P3 and early learning and have a time where we can ask questions and look at some more data, because I know that's something that's fairly new and hard to do when you have a 10-minute presentation, so hoping we can get that on the.
Now, Director Wilson, is this something that you're interested in at all? So I didn't.
Very much so.
Okay, just checking.
Okay.
Sounds good. Thank you again for your presentation tonight. Give her a hand, absolutely. We're now to our public comment section of our meeting. I'd like to remind those that present tonight that you have 3 minutes to present. When the red thing lights up, that means you need to wrap up your comments. And yeah, so first up tonight, we'd like to invite Leah Barome Brady, who would like to come share.
Hi, thank you for letting me address you. I'm Leah Barome Brady. I live here in Federal Way. In fact, I live right next to the school bus barn where this is proposed to go in. Where are the children going to play in this thing? We're talking about happy children. There's no play, there's no outdoor area at all. Where's the mother going to take her kids with the car? Are they going to go a half a mile? I've come because we found out at our public meeting last week or 2 weeks ago that the offer to buy expires April 15th. And the fact is, unless you sign a continuance, that offer, this dies. Now the neighbors, the people in our neighborhood, which has been there before the bus barn was even in place. There are people in our neighborhood who have lived there their whole lives, 60 years. They've lived in this little neighborhood, and it's this great little neighborhood that'll be destroyed by this development. And I'd like to see the mom with all the kids trying to get down to the park. There's no way. Moreover, when this proposal, when this density of proposal was set up, city frame, they were planning a big city road that would go out the back and connect with 14th behind Best Buy, and that's not part of this. So you've got a community who lives nearby and people who are further away who are very upset about this. And we ask you respectfully to let it die. And let's come up with something better. Let's be inventive. At this point in our city, at the highest point, do we want to look at what could become tenements in 10 years? It's going to be low income. I'd like to leave a letter with you that the city council and the mayor signed, opposing more low income in our city and an apartment building. This guy already has 2 apartments going in the city. He's already putting in 2 giant complexes. To put one here like this with no place for kids to play and every tree gone is just greedy. It's greedy on the part of the developer. It's greedy if the school board or the school district says, we don't care, we don't want kids to have trees and a park-like place in the development. I mean, they should cut this down. They should put in a park-like area. Would anybody want to live in this? Especially, 10 years down the road when it starts to decay? They're not even going to widen the road. They're not going to widen 320th to turn into it. So they're going to have a turn lane for people to slow down and turn. That's not going to work at that intersection. That's already a C intersection, and thank you very much for your time. I'll leave you the picture of this terrible thing, and I'm going to leave you the letter from the mayor. And please, imagine you're somebody who lives behind it. You've lived there 50 or 60 years, and the integrity of your neighborhood is in danger. Thank you.
Thank you. Next tonight, I would like to invite Caroline Miller.
I'm not very good at public speaking, although I did teach school for 32 years, 31 of them in Federal Way. I live in this neighborhood where they're proposing the High Point project, and it would be in my backyard, actually. But I really am concerned about the kids, having taught in the primary grades for all those years. I taught at Lake Grove and at Olympic View. And there would be, they are proposing that there would be 308 units, and some are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 bedroom units. So there would be at least, there'd have to be at least 1,000 people. if you, there'd be perhaps 3 per unit, maybe more, there'd be a lot of kids. And these kids will have to go to school somewhere. What school? What's an influx of 300 more kids? And like Leah said, there would be no place for the kids to play or play. There is a park, but it's some distance away. They say there'll be some play areas, but they couldn't possibly have very much in that dense an area. It's less than 10 acres. And they're proposing 16 buildings. So I'm really concerned about the kids, not, I mean, as well as myself and the rest of my neighbors, but the kids that would live here and the quality of their life being in such a densely populated little area there.
Thank you. Next, Diane Ferguson.
Hello, I am Diane Ferguson, and I've been a resident of the Mirror Lake Elementary area and the High Point neighborhood for 37 years. And my concern on the High Point project, and I really sincerely hope that you reconsider selling it to the Devco development company, is like these ladies were saying. There's going to be a lot of families, there's going to be young kids, there's going to be high school kids. This only has 2 entrances off of 320th. And there's no other entrance or exit. It's all 320th. So you've got all these elementary kids that are going to be walking down 320th. And if you've ever walked down that area, Safeway, the library, those cars go by really fast. And I just hate to see elementary kids having to walk down 320th and then over to 8th Avenue to reach Mirror Lake, where I assume that the elementary kids would go. The high school kids would also have to come out 320th and either go up to the highway or down 8th Avenue and then walk out. I just don't think that that is an appropriate place to put our future kids in our neighborhood. And I sincerely hope that you reconsider selling this property to Devco, and maybe we could all work together to think of something else that would be more appropriate for that area. Thank you.
Thank you. And next we will invite Woody Ann.
Thank you. My name is Woody Ann. I am a PTA member for Total Middle School. You may not believe, but looking at my gray hair, but that's true. Also, I'm main parents at PTA member at TJ High School too. Also, I'm a member of advisory committee auto mechanics Decatur High School, and I am at retired Washington State Community College president. You want to know more? But I'm not running for the governor of Washington State. I'm just kidding. I just found out our school district is supporting the travel, our math team and the DECA club for their national kind of contest. What an honor to hear that. I was so excited to see that, you're one of the item today. So I just want you to know, I'm just so happy to see our school district can, willing to support that kind of travel for our kids, which is, our children's future, our country too. So I just want to thank you.
Thank you. Next, Jean Epp.
Board of Directors. Thank you for allowing me the opportunity to speak on a subject that is very dear to my heart. I have lived on South 316th Street, just over close to the library, for 51 years. My husband Merlin was a 37-year teacher at Federal Way High School. We've been kid people all our lives, leading tours to the East Coast for 31 years with high school kids. We have sponsored a leadership camp through Washington's Secondary School Principals Association. I taught at Mirror Lake in the 60s, and I recently retired from Lake Dolph as a longtime teacher. Teaching and kids are my passion. Therefore, I want to speak to you about the possibility of considering another option. I know that money is very dear, but we have to consider our kids. I spoke with the secretary at Mirror Lake Elementary who told me that there are 440 students currently there, and there are 6 portables. I was fortunate enough when I was at Mirror Lake to have a lovely classroom, and I had a wonderful classroom at Lake Dolph, which I decorated and spent a lot of money fixing up, and our children deserve to be educated in a wonderful environment and in a safe environment. I don't know if you realize, but on 8th Avenue there is a sex offender home, which is actually within a block of the school. I'm very concerned about the kids living in this rather high density new project, having to walk along 320th, first of all, and cars do speed there, and they do on 8th Avenue. And I'm thinking too that if this project is built, 8th Avenue will become one of the throughways, since there is only an exit to the front. And so the street adjacent to mine will become very, very heavily traveled, and that will be also dangerous for the children because there aren't any sidewalks there. So I'm hoping that you consider another option, perhaps middle-income housing. You know, I've always been proud to live in Federal Way, but now our reputation isn't what it used to be. With the development of the Performing Arts Center and our wanting to invigorate our downtown and make Federal Way a place to be proud in which to live, I think that 3 low-income housing units or big complexes will not, really enhance people of that wage category most likely will not be able to afford to attend the Performing Arts Center. And I want Federal Way to be an exciting, wonderful place in which to live and which to educate our children. So I'm hoping that you will reconsider this because I am very concerned about the children that would be going along that route and attending school. And I'm worried about the teachers too. That could be a lot of kids. Thank you very much for your consideration.
Thank you. Finally tonight, Charles Hoff.
I guess listening to those people, I would also caution you that whatever the impact fees are that you're going to collect for this building, I don't think will begin to cover the costs that you're going to have to spend to house these people in an educational setting. At your work study the other night, you had an interesting discussion on high school completion, and I then sent you all a request to try and reconcile that with the OSPI's data. As of today, I have not received any such response as to what that might be, because it appears that it's a little hard to reconcile that with the end-of-course assessment pass rate, which we have for courses which are required for graduation in this state. And I'm hoping that I'll receive something from you shortly in that area. Secondly, you're going to do a lot of work here on Ns and GPs and whatnot tonight. In the past, this has been very poorly explained to the public. I would hope if you're going to do something this evening that you're very clear about what it is that you're doing in these areas. Thank you.
Thank you. Next on our agenda tonight, Superintendent Comments. Superintendent, welcome.
Thank you, Mr. President. I apologize for being late, and I would like to defer until the Vince Blauser and I present on ends 1.
Very well.
Thank you.
Next up, we have school board comments. I'm going to start to my right with Director McAnally.
So one thing that I decided to do as a director is to focus on the schools that are in my district. There are 5 schools in District 1, and I have visited 3 of those districts to build relationships over the next year with them and begin to understand where things are. And so that will be my goal, to make sure that those 5 are covered, with as well as some of them that are in the outlying areas that will feed the schools. So the 5 schools are Mark Twain, Adelaide and Nautilus, K-8, Sacagawea, and Federal Way High School. So that's part of what I begin to do, is to just make sure we're having relationships with our schools and our teachers and our administrators, and that's been part of my focus this month. That's all I have at this time.
Director Wilson.
I will defer till I do my presentation.
Very well. Director Gregory.
Thank you. I must say, one of the things that I believe school districts can do better at is the amount of paper that we use. I have been reading volumes, and it's been very interesting information, but I was amazed at the amount of information a new school board member gets and how many hours you spend reading. I'm really excited about a lot of what I'm reading. I think that there's some very exciting things going on, and I'm excited to have the opportunity to delve into those more and bring my background and experience to moving forward on our Ns and our ELs. Thank you.
Thank you.
I would also say I don't have a legislative report tonight because it's not quite at the point in time for major change in what I reported previously.
Great, thank you. Well, I'd just like to say good evening to everyone and all those that just left. I hope they had a good time as well. All those that are watching at home right now. Yeah, it's been great. Go Seahawks. You know, just with the last couple of weeks, it was great to see our high school bands that participated with the 12th man rally here at City Hall a couple weeks ago. And also a couple weeks ago, I was able to participate with the Greater Federal Way Emergency Operations Center mock press conference. That's a partnership that we have along with the police department, fire department, Lake Haven, and St. Francis Hospital. A really cool partnership that plans preemptively for if disaster were to happen in our area, that we're not just guessing and hoping something will happen, but how does those partnerships work together? And so that press conference was just a way of how would we communicate with the community and how would we get resources and stuff out. It was really fascinating. It's really impressive too to see the caliber of individuals we have in the different organizations in our city that are serving us, and we're definitely in good hands, and it's great to have the district as a part of that partnership as well. This last Saturday, we had our board retreat. I want to thank our members for all being there for that. That was, I thought, a great time, just as we went through talking about legal matters and talking about policy governance. And I know for me it was extremely beneficial, and I hope it was for the same for all of you. Looking forward to what we learned and how we're going to be applying that this year moving forward in how we work together, how we get board business done, and how we communicate better with our community. And last night was the high school planning night over at Decatur High School. Stopped by there for that. Did a great job. Principal Brower over there did a great job over there with that. And it was full house in the theater area there. Saw just different people there from the community, and definitely have lots of incoming 8th graders that are looking for what is that high school experience going to be like. And it's a great way that we were able to serve our families and present to them all the things that are available to them, the resources and whatnot at our schools. And so definitely a great night, and I commend all those that put their time and effort in there to make that night a success. And so that's all I have to share with that tonight. And next up we have our presentation on ENDS 1. ENDS is our goals for our district. Our ELs, our executive limitations, are our means and how we get those ENDS accomplished. Our very first ENDS is the global is a global end of a global citizen, and invite Director of Secondary Education Vince Blauser right now to come and present to us on EL1.
So while Vince is getting warmed up, getting the PowerPoint ready, I just want folks to know that we presented ENDS 1 at length to the board at the work study last week, and so tonight we're going to do an abridged version of that, and Vince is pinch hitting for Sally McLean, who is a first-time grandmother as of last night.
Yeah, a baby boy. It's beautiful. Well, good evening, President Peterson, members of the board, Superintendent Noon. This evening, I'd like to give you a brief summary of the information that we shared with you at last week's board work study on ENDS 1, the 2003 student achievement. In defining ENDS 1 global citizen, each student will graduate with the skills and academic knowledge to succeed as a responsible contributing member of a global society. For ENDS 1, we interpret that to mean that 100% of Federal Way students will graduate on time. A Federal Way graduate will possess skills that will prepare them to compete and contribute in a global economy, which include the fundamental skills of the core curriculum, world languages, and understanding their place in the global society. And our students will develop into well-rounded young adults who have options to pursue college and career and be prepared to contribute both locally and globally. Our students will develop into well-rounded young adults who have options to pursue college and career. Oops, I read that already. As reported last week at our work study, we believe our students are making progress towards the board-approved graduation rates. Our progress is measured against the school board-approved graduation trajectory for the end of the 2020 school year. Here is a visual representation of the approved graduation rate trajectory. Graduation rates are measured by the terms adopted by the National Governors Association in 2011-12, which essentially measures the cohort group starting in the 9th grade, plus or minus those who move in and out, if we're able to track them. And you can see that this graph runs through 2019-20, and we're in the 2012-2013 column. The trajectory matches the goal of the roadmap region in this district, in the regional school districts. And to highlight what our current data is telling us, our goal was 2.7% growth for on-time graduation. We achieved a rate of 2.6 for on-time graduation for a rate of 72.8%. Each comprehensive high school increased their graduation rates last year for a combined 77%. To be transparent, the Internet Academy at 18.5 and Truman at 32.8 were our lowest performing schools in this average. To further break down the data, this is a graph showing the graduation rates by secondary schools. To highlight, our 4 comprehensive high schools increased graduation rates by 5% in 2013 from 72% to 77%. This slide further indicates a breakdown on on-time graduation rates for each subgroup and category. Of all our largest ethnic subgroups, we've increased in 2013, with African Americans almost 10% in that category. Our trend data shows that for the 3rd straight year, semester grades show significant improvement in grades 9 through 12. And attendance has increased 2% to 93% on daily average attendance. This is very significant. Also, high school's discipline is down 41% compared to this time last year, which is also very significant. So how is this done? As we shared at the work study, we believe there are significant reasons for this upward trend and hope that these trends continue. Among the changes in our behavior, there is a focused, personalized approach to getting to know each student and getting to know them well. There's a renewed emphasis on the transition between 8th and 9th grade. That's what research shows that's where we lose student engagement if we don't engage them early and connect with them in the 9th grade. The focus must remain on each individual learner and their specific needs. Each school has developed a plan to offer extended learning opportunities to struggling students through their after-school programs, summer school programs, tutoring intervention programs, and embedded support classes in their master schedule. And at each high school, we've provided comprehensive and focused credit retrieval programs. And these courses are targeted to help students who have not yet met standard. In addition, we have a collective focus on the district target, in particular this one listed here, where 100% of our incoming 9th grade African American, Latino, Latina, Pacific Islanders, and Native American students will be on track to graduate. Now, of course, there are many other programs, classes, and interventions being employed to support our students in need in an effort to get all students to graduation requirement status.
Thank you, Mr. Blauser. So if we look at ENDS 1, and really the goal of ENDS 1 is that every student will graduate from our schools, and preferably they will do that on time. Although we know that students don't all learn the same way, and they don't all learn at the same rate. And they don't all have the same interest, obviously. But I look at ENDS 1 as a three-legged stool, with the first leg being the focus on our core curriculum, the graduation requirements, and the matriculation of the students through their 12-year formative educational process. The second leg to me is the piece that Vince just talked about, and that's the enrichments and the supports and the interventions that we provide at the high school level. But in particular, when we really focus on our students who are struggling, at risk of not graduating, and we know the cost of students not graduating to them and to our society. And then the third leg of the stool is our focus on turning our students into global citizens, as ENDS 1 talks about. Our students will graduate with the skills and academic knowledge to succeed as a responsible contributing member of a global society. And what I've really learned this past year is that the rest of the world has been traveling and learning from the rest of the world for decades, and Americans have not. And where our students are truly at risk is if we fail to prepare them to be contributing members to a global society. Thomas Friedman was the one that called it out when he talked about the world is flat. The infrastructure that technology laid and the access that the rest of the world has now has really changed the dynamics of the global economy and really created a global economy. And so with that, our global initiative is designed to, the objectives, if you will, were designed so that we would learn from our colleagues around the world, that we will develop international partnerships, sister schools, and that we begin the process of really extending opportunities for our staff to study abroad, to teach abroad, to learn abroad, and to bring those from abroad here so that they can teach here, work with our students, enrich our students, but also enrich our professional lives, as well as the lives of the members of our community. And then our students need to have these opportunities to travel abroad, study abroad, and then also learn from students who come from various corners of the world. We think that, if you go to the next slide, Vince, we think that a 5-year goal is that we have 100 students annually coming here to study in Federal Way, and by doing so, we can create about $1 million in additional revenue. And we have the seat space, we have the capacity in our schools, in our high schools now, and our middle schools, to accommodate actually probably about 500 students a year. But we don't have that kind of capacity out in the community. Districts, communities that have embraced this type of a program have really been enriched by that international exchange. And I think it'll really help us capitalize on our community assets. We are an international community to begin with. The goal in 5 years' time is that every one of our elementary schools is a dual language school. I was just at an event Monday, and I got to find out who the gentleman was, but it was a district about our size. I'm not sure where in the country he was. It was not from the state of Washington. And they have dual languages in all their schools. 7 different dual languages are being taught in their elementary schools. We really have to get our elementary students learning different languages, multiple languages, at an early age. And then through that, the development of sister school relationships. How can we enrich and expand the classroom for our students so that they're learning and they learning what's going on in the world, and that they leave us with the skills and understand that it is a big world out there and that there's opportunities for them, and that if, on the other hand, they have to understand how to interact culturally, they have to have multiple language skills, they have to be multi-generational, to be honest with you, because we're all getting old. But it is our responsibility to make sure our kids are prepared globally. So with that, one of the things we've learned, next slide, is that these are the 5 lessons that a book, and I'm reading from the bottom here, Lessons from International Models of Excellence and Innovation by Vivian Stewart. And she said the 5 big lessons from top-performing countries: long-term vision, sustained leadership, ambitious standards, commitment to equity, and high-quality teachers and school leadership. And through this initiative, we can accomplish those 5 goals. And the last slide talks about the 6 C's that Randy Kazar put together. Our students need to have character, they need to be global citizens, they have to have the communication skills on a global level, be critical thinkers, they need to be collaborative and creative. And I'll conclude with, while there's such an emphasis on standardized testing, there's a bigger emphasis worldwide on creativity and innovation. And the rest of the world is trying to become like Americans so that their kids become, they graduate with confidence and the skills to be creative and innovative. And the rest of the world is asking us to continue to lead that economically because we are the creative, innovative engine, economic engine. And so it's incumbent upon us, and it's our responsibility that our students not only graduate, 100% of them, but they graduate with those skills to be able to contribute locally and globally in a global society. Questions from the board?
Board members, questions? This obviously is something that is our focus this month, as the superintendent New alluded to. We talked about at the work study. Obviously, presentation tonight, and this is something at the end of this month we will be, along with the district presenting their report on ENDS 1, we're going to be, as a board, giving a monitoring report on our findings if we see reasonable progress. And so is there any questions right now, just to refine, to ask further information?
I do have one question. So at the retreat, we discussed SurveyMonkey. Are we moving forward with doing that with this first ENDS? Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Fantastic.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, we'd like to invite Director Wilson, who's going to be presenting on the Global Learning Initiative.
I want to thank my fellow board members, Superintendent New, the staff, students, and community members present in the audience tonight still, as well as those watching on television, for this opportunity to share my perspectives and my learning from our board's recent visits to Finland, to Scotland, and to England. As a school board director, my role is in the co-development of a vision and policy and funding that supports the outcomes we set forth for students in the district. In the visits abroad, my specific focus or lens was multifaceted: early learning, equity and inclusion, family engagement, funding, testing and assessment, facilities and learning spaces, and grading. Each country had an area in which they excelled, but for all, it was clear that schools had outcomes that were based on the needs of all children, and the focus was on what quality teaching looked like, what quality lessons looked like, and how the needs of each individual child were assessed, met, and continued to be served throughout their educational career. The question of what happens if a child doesn't read by 3rd grade doesn't happen. Children are not categorized as special education or special needs. Children are assessed as individuals and then provided the supports necessary to succeed. Teaching is individualized and differentiated, and learning is self-directed. Children are provided with the opportunity to learn multiple languages from the primary grades on up, which puts them ahead of many leaving the school system. Many of up to 8 languages, especially in Finland, that was quite common. Initial questions it brought up for me were things like, how are we integrating bilingual education in Federal Way? How are we providing access and opportunity, not only for students who are English language learners, but also for those students for whom we'd like to possess the ability to speak more than one language? What role does the board play in setting the foundation and framework for moving that work forward? What is our district common definition of quality teaching and quality lessons? Other things that I noticed were flexible learning spaces and flexible learning environments and groupings. They abounded in the schools we visited. As we consider the new Federal Way High School construction and other learning spaces, I've been able to have conversations and share photos of the learning environments that I experienced. It's also helpful perspective as I visit schools in Federal Way and consider how we might be using our existing learning spaces and environments with flexibility and with meeting the needs of students in mind as a priority. Another area of interest in learning was around assessment and grading, and how, given the national standardized testing or not, success and achievement continued. This fits with the district's focus on standards-based education and standards-based grading, and how children reach mastery as a measure of their success and grades a measure of progress. All students reach mastery. Assessing or testing in most cases is used to guide and drive the professional development given to teachers to change their practice and hence outcomes for children, and not used with the expectation that children are the ones that need to change. STEM abounds in the schools we visited, as well as the arts. They have been integrated and infused in all learning environments and truly are an opportunity gap strategy that changes outcomes for children. The last thing I'll share is the interesting relationship between schools and their parents and families. In Finland, children don't even begin schooling until the age of 8, and at that time, parents gladly hand them over to the educators to do their job. Theirs is a unique relationship and trust that exists between each that doesn't exist across the board in my school experiences in the U.S. At the same time, the school has a strong trust in families, and when children arrive at age 8, that families have done their very best, and now the school welcomes the children so they can do their job. My hope and intent is to continue to see the global initiative roll out, from opportunities for students to travel or have students from other countries travel here, to increase language offerings from elementary on up, to the use of technology and blended learning to connect both students and staff to others, to extend and bring new learning opportunities right into our classrooms here in Federal Way, for teacher exchanges and extended professional development and professional learning, and to more flexible use of all our schools and the learning spaces that exist within them, to changes in policy and funding to support what we continue to learn has the greatest outcome and provides the greatest opportunity for all of our 22,000 plus Federal Way students. And I know those are just a few of many things. Many of the schools visited have already turned into connections with our schools as we speak. I'm not a photographer, but I'd like to share some pictures from several of the schools that I visited, and that represent just a few of the focus areas that I was interested in learning more about, and shared from my personal board lens, which is how we have to do it. Oops, just a sec. So music abounded, and in every class, in every room that we went into, in every building, you will see instruments. And what you won't see necessarily is third grade choir, fifth grade choir, or sixth grade choir. What you'll see is band, and you'll see orchestra, and you'll see individual students composing and doing things so they integrate their own learning and knowledge. Music and movement is a great way to learn math, and it's a natural for children. And it didn't matter what grade we were in, or what classroom we were in, or what school building we were in. there were instruments and music was an integral part of everything that went on, as well as theater and dance and visual arts. Notice all the guitars lined up against the wall, the drum sets, everywhere you went. Students were engaged in, motivated in learning, and doing it in many different ways. Students had CTE from the beginning of their career. This is a third grade class that was in a wood shop, and they were using the skill saws and the live saws, and with great ease. And at every level, students leveled their learning, teachers leveled their learning, and CTE abounded in all the schools that we saw. Family-style meals was a huge piece of what the countries in Europe thought was very important, that without a hot meal and a breakfast and a lunch and sitting down and having conversation with that learning could not take place. So you saw children with what I remember as the trays with real glasses and real silverware and real plates, engaged in eating real food, and also cleaning up after themselves because they owned the school, because the school was part of who they were. You'll see learning environments. This is another lunchroom. This was before lunch, but also you'll notice outside there's also learning areas. And what you'll find is that student-directed learning, a teacher may give direction, but the teacher will also say, go where you learn best and come back in 40 minutes and show me the work you've done. So children would literally scatter and use the entire school building to do their best work based on what they knew they needed to get that done. Another lunchroom setting. I'm into food and nutrition. This is a family-style meal service. This is 600 this was 1 through 5th graders all eating lunch at the same time and all serving themselves in a school lunch in a period of 30 minutes. Notice the tablecloths. Environments are really important, even for kids who have not a lot of money. This is libraries, and this was routinely what we saw. Traditionally in our school system, we think of a lot of, usually libraries sometimes are the centerpiece of a school. And what we found in Europe was they were really not the centerpiece. They had libraries, but they were not nearly as vibrant and as used as probably the blended technology and other ways of learning were. Another library shot. Before and after school programs in every place, and parents could take advantage of it. It was not income-based or need-based. It was, if you'd like it, it's there for you. Traditional hallway, but during class time, students are out. It's not that the hallway's empty. There are kids out in groups doing work all the time, and the larger hallway and the use of space, no place is not a learning space in schools. Traditional classroom, laboratories, again, kids in 3rd grade had the same kind of access to resources and supports as students that were in high school. Learning spaces looked very different. Flexible learning spaces where kids could be comfortable and do their work. Construction, this was a building that was a high school, and this is called the Biomere, but this is one of the learning environments. But you'll notice the squares on the floor. This whole was an outdoor area they called the mall that was covered in glass. It would be a traditional kind of an open space, but they covered it. And architecturally, they did the squares that way so classrooms can go out and do math using the entire building. So they know the dimensions of the squares, and so when they're actually trying to do geometry or doing math problems, they can go out and actually use space. So it's one of those architectural things that's not a big deal, but it becomes a learning environment for kids. Again, the Biomere. Outside, kids were learning and had classes outside just as much as they did inside. You'll notice on here, these are some of the facilities, and I'll show you the wall. This was a classroom, but you see how the walls opened up. And that's because there were flexible spaces and flexible groupings, and so students didn't live in a class, and teachers didn't have a classroom. The teachers moved where children needed them based on the learning levels of students. And so you would see these classroom spaces, but also the ability to open the walls like this and gather students out to do learning in many different kinds of spaces. Another learning space happening where kids are doing learning and there's a teacher there doing some small group work. We also had a chance to go to the National STEM Center in York. And I love the quote, and that's why I put it in. Science and art belong to the whole world, and before them vanish the barriers of nationality. This was the center for teaching, and where teachers from all over the UK could come and learn about science and learn about math in a laboratory setting and know what it was like to use the equipment so they could then go back and their students could experience the same thing. So resources abound. Children have the right to say what they think should happen when adults are making decisions that affect them and to have their opinions taken into account. And every school and every country has kind of an ethos that they live by. And children are the center of everything that they do. A lot of diversity and a lot of focus on the world. You'll notice this is an infant school, but it starts at age 8. So primary looks a little different. Same kinds of things you'll see as we talked about PBIS earlier. There's class codes and ways to behave in classes. Knowledge and understanding of the world. Our world, global citizenship is alive from primary on up. I looked at strategies, and you'll notice they do maths, which was an interesting thing to me, plural. There's more than one. A lot of math and numeracy, again, developmentally appropriate. You'll also notice many, many different languages. Writing. They also had something called VCOP, which wasn't aligned all the way across. And what that is vocabulary, connectives, openers, and punctuations. And everything you saw were students that were using the rubric based on what their level was to do their work. So regardless of what group they were in, they were able to work at their level and above. So if you thought about vocabulary, if you were at the very beginning or level 1, you'd look at the top of the pyramid, words like so, because, first. If you were further down, then you would use and focus on words further down. So it's a tiered intervention, it's individualized, but students are in groups. So sentences, connectives, how they do their work. This was a group of students, all different levels, but all working together. They all knew what they were doing, but the students next to them didn't necessarily know at what level the work they were doing at. Same kinds of classroom experiences, open-ended opportunities, math. You'll see same kinds of things, no lockers, backpacks on the back of chairs. Same kinds of environments that we see here. Robotics, computers were alive and well. This was a primary class. I'll tell you, in the bottom right corner, you see bananas, juice, and carrots. Every single class, every single day gets a snack all the time. Kids are eating, and it's provided because they know kids come and need that food. And every kid. Children write. And the one school we were at in 3rd grade, by the end of 3rd grade, they were writing a book, a novel about themselves, and this would be one sample of writing. They have writing targets, and read your writing carefully. Does it make sense? So kids self-assess their own work. A lot of developmentally appropriate play. Again, workshops. Kids learned in many different ways. They learned by reading, they learned by small groups, they learned one-on-one, they learned by playing. This was a group that was acting out a story they had read, and they were responsible for creating the play themselves and figuring out what the beginning, the middle, and the end was, who the characters were, and then how they were going to present that to their classmates. All learning skills. This was this was the only class we saw in all of our travels that was a group of autistic children in Alexandria Infant School. So very, very few specialized services within schools. However, this was one school that did serve that population. Project-based learning abounded. This was in one of the high schools we went to, and this was a project that the kids had done around angles and created chairs and furniture. Outdoor environments, kids were all over outside and learning and using their environment for writing and for reading and for creating. And they don't have a lot more money than we do, but they do use their space wisely, I have to say. Just some outdoor environments. This particular school, they filled their population within 3/10 of a mile. So they are a very, very compact little place and a very, very diverse population. And the school is just tucked away in the middle of this little town. I had to do that. Outdoor play, this is a whole construction area for kids. If you can think about the building that goes on and what kids learn by actively engaging in that. Looks different than sitting in a classroom. Again, the use of outdoor space. This is a sensory room, and this was quite an amazing thing. This was 20,000 pounds it cost for this room, and this was a principal who was the kind of person who needed something and she got it. And she had a lot of children that were coming to school that had a lot of escalating behaviors and that were having a very hard time learning. So she created the sensory room that is a place any one of us would want to come on the end of a hard day and shut the door. And you'll notice the color wheel on the back, and you'll notice the bubbles that go up. And the color wheel is a calming effect. The bubbles go up and down, and the colors also change, which changes and soothes the environment. All the material in there was soft to the touch, so there was nothing, if you had a child that had a sensory issue, would bother them. They had, again, just an area of calm. This was a computer on the floor that changed scenes based on whatever you wanted it to. The other piece was, though, there was odor and there was sound that went along with that. So, for example, if you had this picture of the ocean, you'd also smell the ocean and the salt water, and you would hear waves. And it's a way to just calm kids down. And not just kids with special needs, but any kids that come. Teeny tiny room, and she did it with literally nothing. Construction in the buildings, we saw kids learned how their buildings were constructed because they showed them. So this was a wall that was open, and they also had spaces on the floor. This was another use of space. This is a gymnasium, as you could see, with AV equipment. However, you'll also see that the gym floor rises. It becomes a stage, and underneath, you pull it out, and the chairs are stored underneath. So it's a multi-purpose room, but it's also an incredible use of space, again, as we think about construction for our new buildings, how we might incorporate some of these architectural designs and really nice use of space in the work we're doing. Portable lockers that can be moved around. And these are student lockers. Teachers only had lockers in the teacher's lounge. So teachers moved from room to room. They didn't own a room. And these were portable lockers that also could be moved with student needs. Fireplace was an environmental piece that you'd think doesn't exist, but also it brings a whole new place of learning for students. And then the use of words and just visual connectedness for students. This is Explore, Care, Create, Discover, Inquire, the Biome, Communicate, and the Knowledge Cafe, which is how they identified the different areas of learning. This is that mall I was telling you about. That's a straight shot. Even in the worst neighborhoods, things can be grand. I want to say we started in Finland, where we were welcomed by a group of probably 30 students, all blonde, and one young African-American young boy who was from Sweden. And we ended in London, and in a school that serves a population that's 99%, I would say, second and third generation refugee immigrant second language. And there are many schools and many populations that are like us, and then are many that are different. But what they all do is they have children at their center, that their question is, the focus is on the student and what I can do differently as a teacher, not how I can change a student. It's about walking both sides of the street, and for them, Ofsted is their standards, their national standards, but they can walk both sides of the street and be a quality program and meet those standards, but also meet the needs of students, and we need to figure out how we walk that as well. Any questions? Yeah.
I noticed you said that children start school at 8 years old.
In Finland.
They graduate college about 20.
Director Wilson, could you please repeat the question for those that are
I'm
listening?
sorry. Mr. Ahn was asking if they don't start school till 8, then they don't probably graduate until 20. And that very well may be true. They just believe, and as a matter of fact, they were very vocal in saying if they had their way, they would wait even longer. That even 8 years old, for many professionals, they felt like was too early, and that children belong in the context of their home. But I'll also say that children come with directions, and children and families come with support, which is different than we find in the U.S. And so when a child is born, a child comes and the world says, here you are, and as a new parent, everyone needs help. And in our country, we have to show we don't know how to do something in order to get the support we need to be successful. So, but the other piece is all the students we talked with, and especially those that were going into teaching, had multiple opportunities by the time they were even in high school to already have traveled globally to other countries, even before their college.
Okay, and another question I have is, as you know, some parents fussing about children wearing school uniform. I noticed that some of them wearing uniform, but all school you visit, they require children to wear a school uniform?
It was interesting, and in Finland, no. In Scotland, yes. And in England, yes. Very much so. The last picture of those young people all standing on the risers, they are a very, very high poverty school, and in order to look at equity and also to level a playing field in their minds, what they did is sweatshirts and t-shirts of color. But when you were in Scotland or in England, you saw full-on suits and young women in full dress, but not in Finland. Yeah.
So, Director Wilson, great presentation tonight.
Thank you.
I love the pictures, the perspective. I love just how you took your background and your experience and how you just walked us through the different places that you went. I'm just curious. I know there's probably other questions from board members here. Is there what was like the one or two major things that you see that we could implement or bring back right away, or that we're maybe already doing here in Federal Way that just got you excited when you were going to these different places, going, oh, this right here, this is exciting. This is Is there one thing I'm sure there's lots, but is there one or two that really
I
stick out to you?
think second language is a huge thing for me, and when I say that, I'm going to say English language learners and dual language learners, so I don't want to just say students who come with foreign language who are learning English, but also offering opportunities for English language speakers to have a dual language opportunity. That's a huge thing for me as we think about that. And I'm just going to say three things. The other thing is arts and the integration and infusion of the arts, and in a very meaningful way. Not we're going to pull ourselves out and we're going to do a third grade concert because that's what we always do, but how is it that we're using the arts as a learning tool and doing it in a way where kids are getting experiences and opportunities they may not have they don't come with, but they deserve to have those. And then the third thing for me is providing the landscape and the opportunity for teachers to do what they do best. And that's to teach children and to fund what we need to fund and to align what we need to align and to support what we need to support so they can do the job they're paid to do and they do so well.
Fantastic. Just as I ask the other board members, I just want to point out that former board member Angela Griffin is right in the back. Welcome you tonight. Good to see you. So, Director Gregory, Director McAnally, any questions?
Thank you.
Thank you. Next tonight, we're going to look at the policy review section of our agenda. Item 15 is Governance Process 7, the Advisory Committee structure. A little history on that. Back in September of this last year, the board moved and approved the forming of a Global Learning Initiative Committee that would cover ENDS 1. And in your packet tonight, and as we discussed at our board retreat, is this committee and the structure that is being presented to us tonight to approve. I, at this time, actually, I'll just go ahead and read this. The committee, obviously, the name is Global Learning Initiative Committee. The purpose is a committee to gain community perspective and monitor district progress in accomplishing ENDS 1 to aid the board in decision making. It's the directions for this group is to meet at least quarterly to gain community perspective and monitor district progress that will serve in forming recommendations to the board. The membership of the committee will consist of 8 to 12 members representing a broad perspective of our community. A board member will serve as the chair for the committee and will oversee the membership selection and present the list to the board. The authority of this board will be given permission to gather any relevant district data that pertains to ENDS 1 for the purpose of making recommendations to the board. And the term of this board, this committee would start tonight and would go throughout the year ending in February 24th of 2015. And as we discussed at a retreat, I was really excited that this is something that we talked about connections with the community, creating linkages and opportunities for us to engage those that are around us and to get not just asking people, but finding meaningful ways to engage people in policy making and recommendations that move us forward in how we monitor this particular ENDS. And so at this time, I'd entertain a motion to consider adoption of this advisory committee structure.
So moved.
It's been moved. Is there a second?
Second.
So seconded. Any further comments, questions?
My only comment would be, I'm wondering if 8 to 12 is pretty limiting for the diversity in our community, but I assume we have some flexibility in that if we find we need more members.
And the other piece I'd add is that 2 board members could do it too. So I don't know if we just want 1 board member, if there's the interest of 2 doing it, that we should also be flexible in that area.
I also had some thoughts about having a board member chair and a community member. So there'd be a co-chair position, but there would be representation from our larger community. That would bring that perspective.
Absolutely. Any further comments? Okay. Any other further motions? Okay. So with that, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? That passes unanimously. And at this time, I would actually like to appoint someone to chair this committee. I'd like to invite Director Wilson, if she would accept the invitation to chair this committee and to begin moving from tonight to begin forming this, getting community involvement and board perspective as well. Would you accept? Absolutely.
Yes,
Fantastic.
thanks. If there's anyone out there that's interested in finding out a little bit more or being involved, please get a hold of me through the website for Federal Way under School Board Director.
Fantastic. Next tonight, item 16 is GP8-E. It is our yearly monitoring calendar, something that we modified back in January, and through the recommendations of EL11 at our last board meeting, made some further modifications to include our BSRs and our board superintendent relationship, monitoring of those policies within our policy governance, as well as adding monitoring of our governance processes, which are in policy governance, our Ns and our ELs are how we keep the superintendent accountable. In our governance processes and our board superintendent relationships is how we hold the chair and the board accountable. And so we wanted to add those to this year to make sure that we got that into our monitoring as we had approved our last calendar. We'd only included our Ns and our executive limitations. So before you, at the retreat we discussed it, and tonight before you is the modified and updated annual board agenda, which will take us through June of this year. Is there a motion on the floor to approve this calendar?
Actually, I'd like to bring up what we discussed at the retreat, and I really think that we need to focus the next 4 months on our ends. And you want a motion first and a discussion?
Yes. I move that we adopt the policy governance board agenda through June.
Policy. Okay. Is there a second? I think we all understand what that is. So is there a second for that motion?
I second the motion, but I also have a question.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Any further questions? There we go.
My question would be whether there'd be an opportunity to add a work study on early learning perhaps in June. Since there's new funding and expansion's going to be happening, it would be an opportunity for the board to be abreast of kind of where the legislature landed and what that was going to look like and how that might impact some facilities and other kinds of issues related to full day K and such. So I would be interested in doing something on the broader, deeper dive before next school year if we could.
Absolutely. I don't see this as limiting us adding another work study to our calendar. It's basically just establishing this, and at any time we can add work studies. Since it's not part of the monitoring calendar, it's just part of how we operate as a board, so absolutely. Any other questions, comments?
Yeah, so as we discussed at the retreat, we talked about the next 4 months really being focused on the ends and digging in the ends. And by doing this, I think we're compounding what we're doing. So I believe that we should wait on the GPs and the BSRs until we're through May and begin to look at those through the summer. We even discussed being done by the end of 2014. So I believe that that's what's in the best interest of us to look at that. We had also had guidance and direction that we may want to think about doing a work study around the GPs and to look at those together, and I really like that idea for all of us to do that together. And so spreading them out this way, I think just compounds what we need to do when we really need to focus on our Ns and our ELs through May.
Okay. Comment?
Do you want to make a motion or an amend the motion?
I guess I'd like to discuss that point right there where I don't see it as either or. I see it as a both and. This is not we just cover it once and we're done with it. I think right now the work of the board is encompassing all that. How are we communicating? How are we directing ourselves and spending that time? Obviously, what requires more attention, definitely I think in the grand scope, our ends is obviously is our primary focus, and our ELs is our secondary focus always. And the governance processes and the board superintendent relationships don't necessarily encumbering. They're just making sure that we are viewing them. I think it is good practice for the board to be looking at those and seeing how are we doing that. Are we abiding by them? Is there things in our meetings? And to push those off to some further date, I don't know if it benefits us. I would encourage us to definitely do that, bring it up in a work study. But I don't necessarily think that basically pushing it off away, I don't think will detract by any means to covering our Ns or our ELs. So that's my comment. Any other comments or motions or questions?
I made the motion, but I have to say this looks pretty full. And I'm not sure, I tend to agree with Jeffrey, and I thought that's where we were going at the retreat, that we would move those down somewhat so that we really could concentrate on the Ns and the ELs, because I think after that retreat, we saw a lot of work that we still have to do on those, and to me, that's the critical piece. The others, you know, if something comes up that we need to do, we can certainly do that, but I would say, I would agree that going to June or July and really focusing on these on the GPs and the BSRs would be a more valuable way so that we don't feel rushed in trying to do everything. And this looks pretty tight to me. But since I made the motion, I don't think I can amend it, so somebody else would have to.
So I make a motion to amend the original motion that we actually move the BSRs to the end of May, 1 through 5, and then we take the GPs and move them into June in a work study, and we do them all collectively together at that work study in June or July, whatever. I don't want to be in conflict or with the early learning piece that we need to do as well. And I know July is a shorter time because it is summer, but that's my motion to move it down. So to move the GPs into June at this point, collectively all of them.
So 1 through 29?
So you want to do 29?
1 through 29 in June?
Correct.
Okay, it's been moved. Just to clarify, the President, I'll just clarify, you are wanting to move the BSRs to May and the GPs to June.
That's correct.
Okay, it's been moved. Is there a second? It's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion passes. Thank you for that input. Appreciate it. It's definitely important as a board that we tackle this and have the conversation together how to move forward, be able to hit these benchmarks. I know in the past, I think moving forward as a board, this is something that we definitely want to take definite steps towards in being very vigilant and very, what's the word, intentional about covering these things in a way that will be transparent for our community. Yes, Director Gregory.
I might just clarify what I mentioned. When we talk about the ends or we talk about our strategic initiatives, one of the things that became very clear at our retreat was that we have the opportunity really and need to expand our what we have in writing so that our community really understands what it is we have as a strategic plan and how we plan to strategically get there. And so that's what we're talking about. And that seems to us like a big task to even get done by May. So that's what that all means.
Thank you.
All right. Yeah, on the ends of that, I'd just like to say I'm proud of our progress that we've made together as a board. And I'm definitely looking forward to tonight to some positive results with our levy. Before we wrap up our meeting this evening, I do, though, need to make an announcement. And I would like to say that over the past several weeks, I have reevaluated the roles and responsibilities of being board president. And with my priorities and commitments outside the board, I realize I need to step down as president. And I plan to remain on the board, but do not want the added responsibilities and obligations that come with being president. And so with that, I resign my position and pass the gavel to our vice president right now to conduct our election. And I'd just like to say thank you.
Okay, at this time, I open the floor up to nominations for president.
Mr. Vice President, I'd like to nominate Claire Wilson for president.
We have a nomination for Claire Wilson. Do we have a second?
I second that motion.
Again, are there any other nominations for president? At this time, I nominate Carol Gregory for president. Do I hear a second?
I second that.
Are there any other nominations for president? Hearing none, I will ask Superintendent New as secretary, or Chris?
Director Wilson?
No, it's
No,
full.
Never do
It's a roll
secret
call.
ballots. Could you repeat what we're actually now voting on since?
Yeah, there are two nominations for president, one for Director Wilson and one for Director Gregory.
And you'd like to know? You'd like to know my vote? Please. Director Wilson?
Director Gregory?
Director Gregory.
Director Peterson?
Director Gregory?
And Director McAnalloy.
Director Gregory.
Director Gregory has the nomination.
Are there any other, or any further issues that anyone would like to raise? Do we have any other action items?
No, but I think you need to go back and look at what you just voted on as far as your monitoring calendar, because you had a motion, or an original motion, and then you amended it. So you voted on the amendment, and you did not vote on the original motion.
Okay. Okay, we're going back to the monitoring calendar, as amended. All those in favor of the annual board agenda as amended signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Point of order to the president. From my understanding, can the president also hold legislative liaison position at the same time?
No.
Okay.
So at this point in time, I resign as the legislative liaison for the board, and that position is open. Are there nominations for that position?
President Gregory, I'd like to nominate Claire Wilson.
Claire Wilson has been nominated. Is there a second?
I second.
Any further nominations? Any further nominations? Seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Oh, do we have to do a call? Do you need to ask us individually?
No, I don't mind that you do it. It's okay.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Claire Wilson has been nominated, or has been
She accepts.
voted in if she accepts. Okay, Claire Wilson is our new legislative liaison. Is there any further action to be brought before the board this evening? If not, I will accept a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
It's been moved.
Second.
Seconded to adjourn. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. We are adjourned. And we should have levy results in the next 20 minutes.